Question 8 says to solve the quadratic equation. I have 4b squared minus 30 equals negative 7b. So helpful hint, we want to make sure your equation first is in standard form, aka it's solved for 0. So it wants to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Clearly this is not because I don't have an equals 0 on the right side, so I need to move that negative 7b to the other side. Since it's a negative 7, to move a negative over, I do the inverse operation, so I would add 7b to both sides. Once I do that, I end up with this equation, so 4b squared. Notice I put the 7b in the middle, so it's written in standard form. And then the minus 30s at the end, it's all set equal to 0. Now that I have my standard form of my quadratic equation, I can pull out my a, b, and c so that I can plug those values into the quadratic formula. So my a value is 4. That's the number in front of my squared term. My b value is the number in front of my single variable term, so that's the 7. And then lastly, my constant term is that third term, that's that negative 30. Once I have those values, I can go in and plug them into my quadratic formula. So just to kind of, if you are someone who likes to color code, you can maybe use a pen and just kind of highlight where you're going to be plugging in those values. So the 7 I'm going to plug into the B terms. You can change your pen color. The A I'm going to plug into those blue terms. And then I just have one single guy for the C, and he's going to go right here. So all in all, it would look something like this. So negative 7, okay, I plugged in that 7 for B, plus or minus the square root of 7 squared, minus 4 times my A was 4, times C, my C was negative 30, and all over 2 times A. Again, my A term was 4. Now I can simplify. So I'm going to start by simplifying what's inside of my square root here. So when I do that, 7 squared is 49, and then the negative 4 times negative 30, that part is the negative 480. And then I can simplify one step further in the square root and add those two numbers together. So 49 plus 480 gives me this 529. Luckily for us, the square root of 529 is a perfect square. It happens to be 23. So I'm just left with negative 7 plus or minus 23 all over 8. And I got 8 because 2 times 4 is 8. Now, I have two problems here technically. Remember, this is a plus or minus, meaning I'm going to have two problems, one where I add and one where I subtract. So I'm going to start first with the addition problem. So I'm taking negative 7 plus 23 and then dividing that by 8. That's going to simplify to 16 over 8, which is just 2. So one of my answers is 2. My other answer, x is going to equal negative 7 minus 23. I'm using that second operation here. And divide that by 8, we end up with negative 30 over 8, and that just simplifies to negative 3.75. So my two answers, I'd have x equals 2 and x equals negative 3.75.